Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer, forge, recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to the Monday edition of my bi-weekly behind-the-scenes DM-only live stream, Crafting the Deep, in which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Call from the Deep. If you're playing characters Gottwald, Mock, Sabra, or Toril, this video is not meant for you and will be full of spoilers, but for the rest of you, welcome. We stream our D&D sessions live on YouTube every Friday. You can join our official Discord server with invite link into the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. For our campaign, we use Roll20.net, and for streaming, I use OBS Studio. We are celebrating a glorious Cowboys win on this Monday over the much heated rival, the Eagles, a very good team, division leaders. So that was a big win and a very statement win. We love the Cowboys in this house. But we are going to be talking about the Wreck of the Golden Crown still. Didn't quite make it as far as I had planned. We kind of took a long time doing a plan, which, I mean, we talked about this during the post-session chat, but rarely do we actually get the players to reconnaissance, properly scout, get some information, and then act on it and actually execute a plan that causes me to have to, like, kind of change my plans a little bit in terms of like, okay, well, I don't have a battle map for like, the middle of the sea or the beach or something. So kind of have to do a little bit of abstraction there. But honestly, it worked, and I felt good about rewarding the players for coming up with a good plan and basically executing and dividing and conquering a little bit here. And then trying to play these Sahuagin like they were, kind of meatheads, but also not completely feral monsters, and, trying to get reinforcements and tactically be more mindful and everything. So I was hoping we could get through the Hoch Miraz thing, but we'll get to it next time. If you notice, I was very much like, hey, remember there's that door up there that's locked, because I'm really hoping the players can obviously chat with him, get a really good item, probably get a good ally. I'm just looking forward to a very weird like social situation scene I can unleash, which is all here in this new quarter. By the way, shout out to, I think it was Refus, who pointed out the fact that I was using the Deathlock White, and he was like, well, the Deathlock actually looks kind of more like what you're thinking of using. I'm like, or how did the conversation? It was something like, well, what does Roll20 use the Deathlock White when there's a Deathlock right there? And I was like, oh, that's a different stat block. Oh, wait a minute, I should use that stat block. So yeah, there is a actual Deathlock and not just a Deathlock White, which looks more like a, I don't know, like a baby lich kind of thing, which is what I'm going for. Somebody who looks obviously undead and creepy, but maybe doesn't have all the powers of a lich. In this case, he's a kind of a CR4 undead spellcaster with like just auto attack easiness. So that works for me as a kind of temporary ally for the purposes of this dungeon. I think that will be fantastic. We'll just straight up use the Deathlock stat block. Whether or not I let him actually have multi-attack, I don't know. It really depend on if the players need me to like bail them out or not. But I think might just stick with the single attack, because he's probably strong enough as it is. And remember, the players are only level 4, so they do not have multi-attack, and I don't really want to outshine them. They are also privy to some information that they know that there is a boss fight here, and that that basically this was not a, because going into it, I can see why they might think that the shipwreck was just an encounter and not a dungeon, right? Because you could do that either way. You could say like, well, okay, the Sahuagin, it's a notable location. It's a POI. It's a point of interest. And it's just crawling with these Sahuagin. So it's kind of one fight you have to do. And they might have been thinking that, but since Sabra was able to drink that potion of comprehension, actually learn the Sahuagin language that they speak. A lot of creatures do that, by the way. They just have their own little inner language that really forces the players to kind of use those kind of spells, and then all of a sudden the DM has to scramble and be like, oh shit, I wasn't prepared for you to like know what they were talking about, and now all of a sudden you do know about it, so I'll have to figure that out. But in this case, it was pretty good, because I could tell him information and tease the fact that there's a bigger boss down here, and that in fact this is kind of a little bit of a dungeon crawl. So that's what they will be privy to here, and they are just kind of at the entrance to it. They beat up a bunch of bad guys. So I'm not worried about pacing, and in fact, they'll probably go up and do that big social scene with Hoch Miraz, which the way I've written it in my notes is I'm not even going to have him, I don't think I'm going to have him attack anybody. They'll open the door, I'm going to have his sexy spell book sitting out, and either as soon as somebody touches the spell book or as soon as somebody opens the curtain, because there's that weird ass big like curtain here that divides the room. Then he will that will trigger his like, aha, I caught you red-handed, you fish bastards. And then he will like act like he's about to spring an attack, but then he'll actually pull up at the last minute, be like, oh wait, who are you? And he'll notice there's a bunch of like, battle hardened adventurers all of a sudden in here, and he's kind of no fool, even though he's pretty strong. He doesn't know how strong they are. I mean, clearly they're here underwater and everything, so he might stop and be like, well, wait a minute. And the interesting thing is, I'm playing him like he's not some vicious undead bad guy. He's just kind of chill. He has no big motivations in terms of his undead afterlife. Maybe he was like dabbling in lichdom. He was kind of a minor wizard, or was a deck wizard as part of this Kalashite Galleon, but he ended up becoming undead through reasons he might not even be quite sure. And he's kind of just, undead and loving it. He's just enjoying his existence and likes this as a lair. And maybe he always wanted to retire, on the beach. And occasionally he, swims up to the surface and enjoys things whenever it's, quiet. And it's just, this is totally his place. And he has no big grand plans or grand schemes. He's just enjoying the solitude and everything. And thus, his only motivation now is because suddenly the Sahuagin, and the way I'm writing it is they haven't always been here. They've only been here recently. Maybe they only came in like, a couple weeks ago, drawn from the Nautiloid. And thus they're now camping here. And normally the Sahuagin wouldn't be this close to the island of Gunderlin. So maybe the Sahuagin have recently come in, and thus now he fought a bunch of them. That's why we've got a dead body here in his cabin. But he lost the battle, lost his sexy staff of the Magi, and was forced to retreat into this cabin and kind of lock in. And he's thinking, all right, I'll make my last stand here. I'll get him as they come in. This will be better. But then the Sahuagin were like, well, fuck this. We know this guy's pretty strong. We've lost a lot of Sahuagin, so we'll just chain this door up and forget about him for however long it's been. So that's going to be his backstory. So when the players actually open the door, they basically freed him, but he's going to be like, hey, adventurers, why don't you help me clear the Sahuagin, and you can help yourselves to all the loot, and we don't have to fight each other. And I'm hoping the players will be on board with that. I would be shocked if they wouldn't be, frankly, because if any team has been gung-ho about working with shady characters of all of our campaigns, it's been this one. And we don't have that. We don't have like the righteous paladin character or somebody who would be like, fuck undead. No way, I'm not working with you. So I think they'll want to play ball for sure. So that's the fun scene I've got planned, which is why I kept reminding them of that, and I'll probably remind them again this Friday at the start of the session, because obviously getting the quest-giving ally NPC who can even join the party, because we're going to be down a player again, would be very, very helpful for the party and helpful for my balancing purposes if I can throw that character their way before they explore any more of the dungeon. Let's see, did I write down what that spellbook was? I think I'm going to put it in Roll20. So I can show you my ideas for the spellbook, and we'll see how much you like it. Again, I was inspired by the book from Hocus Pocus, which had the single eye in it. So I just pulled this image off of Google search, if you search for like dragon book or something. The idea is being it's a book that's, instead of being the Necronomicon, which is all like, human skin and creepy and has like the screaming mouth and everything, this one is like more like a dragon skin and dragon hide book with the eye on there. It is going to be sentient, but it can only communicate via emotion. And the idea is maybe not a fully grown dragon, maybe just like a baby or something, but to where it had like a child's like intelligence level and emotion level. Let's see. And I've got stats on it, which I literally borrowed from the young. I think I used the young dragon. Can't remember if I used young or wormling actually. Has a particular affinity for dragons and reptilian creatures such as dragonborn, lizard folk, and kobolds. It seeks to align itself with those creatures and aid them whenever possible. So again, I'm like obviously saying, hey, wizard, here's your spellbook. If the user tries to harm such a creature outside of immediate self-defense, the book will rebel against its user, which could be interesting if we end up having to fight like a dragon or something. Rumor has it the book was once a young dragon who was cursed or transformed into a book. So it's got the enduring spellbook quality, which it can't be damaged. Obviously, that's why it's still around here, fully immersed in water. I also gave it the ability to breathe a breath weapon, basically. I forget. Let's see. Did I either use the potion of fire breath or literally the fire breathing spell, or the breath weapon spell, whatever, or the Dragonborn one. I based this on all those different abilities, but the fact that you could actually choose, or I could change it where maybe you roll the dice. That could be interesting. Let's see, acid, cold, fire, lightning, poison. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a D5. I wonder if you come up with one more thing into a D6. That might be more interesting. So as an action, you can open the book and basically have it give yourself like a Burning Hands ability to be able to cast it. And you can use that feature number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, but you can use additional uses as if they were kind of like spell slots. So you can increase the damage by 1d6 if you wanted to use like, so like what, right now they have what, 2 proficiency bonus. So you could use it 2 times per day, or you could choose to use it once per day and then just increase the damage and make a bigger attack. I thought that would be a little more interesting, and I always like giving items to the players that allow them to make choices when using those items. Also, to make it not just, hey, okay, it's a Burning Hands. After using this ability, you gain resistance to the damage type until the end of your next turn. So kind of a temporary, like, absorb elements on top of that based on what damage you chose. Now I'm thinking it may be interesting if I added a bit of chaos in there and made you roll, or maybe that would be just like, oh, I'm never going to use that because it's like, that's not very useful. So I don't know. But my original thing was just to literally copy whatever spell that was that allowed you to choose acid, cold, fire, lightning, or poison, which I think are all the main. If we just look at the base 5e D&D dragons, I think that's all the damage we can do. I don't think there's like a sonic dragon or a force dragon. I mean, they've added them since then, obviously, with Fizzbands and all those. They've added different kinds of dragons. But I'm like, just at the base level, like bronze, brass, blue, black, you know, all those kind of dragons, I think that's all the damage types that we have covered. So that's my idea for the spellbook. And I did say additional abilities may unlock as you travel together. Obviously, I love the what is Critical Role call that? A certain kind of item, vestiges of something. And I've used that a few times too, where it's like a signature item. Frey has had the axe that she was able to attach runes to in our last campaign. I think that's a cool idea. If you give somebody a signature thing, then it feels really cool if they can like level up that thing as they level up, if they get it kind of early enough. And I mean, if it's good enough, you may not have to do that, but that's just, maybe you can unlock abilities or something, especially if it makes sense in the context of the story, where it's like, hey, this is a sentient spellbook, so maybe it can gain new powers somehow, or just being nice to it. Oh, is necrotic missing from it? Can any of the dragons do necrotic though, or they only do like poison? That's the question. He's the Leslie Nelson of Liches. Undead and Loving It, yeah. Nielsen? I thought it was Leslie Nielsen. Is it Nielsen or Nelson? I don't forget. So that they can grab, and then he will say, he'll give his speech about help me, clear the, which they'll want to do that anyway, right? Their quest is already to clear the Sahuagin. So really, he's just there to give the players additional rewards, and frankly, just give them another allied NPC and just a fun social situation. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And I would probably add the, hey, find his staff as a quest, I guess. But the weird thing is that quest, they're going to have it forever. But it's just kind of a tease. It's like, hey, this is out there. This exists in this campaign. But it's not until like probably early Act 3 that they're going to get it. If we count Act 1 as everything we've done so far, plus finishing Gunderlin. So let's see, what are we going to be at? 12 sessions. We'll still spend all of Bronzo Mine, and then we'll probably have to have another set, like whatever gets us to going to Neverwinter again. And then Act 2 begins, and that's going to be, the Neverwinter defense, and then the kind of open world section of going to all these different places. And then Act 3 will be once we've finally gotten the final location that we need to go to, which is the Purple Rocks area. Where is Chapter 1. The wreck. What was I going to look at? W1. I'm getting rid of the trap in the chest. I don't think we need that. And he does have some loot in here. Some really good loot, actually. A diamond, hundreds of gold, a spyglass engraved with his name in a watertight leather sheath. I don't know why it's worth 1,000 gold. It's going to be gold plated then? Platinum plated? Gem of Seeing is a really good item. Requires attunement, but gives you true sight out to 120 feet for 10 minutes. So just negate any kind of shadowy or invisible bullshit that the DM can throw at you. One of those things that if I give it to him early enough, and then I later try and be like, all right, here's what I'm going to do with these creatures, and then the player uses that ability, I'm like, oh, right, you've got that ability that completely negates that. I may move that gem. I don't know. I guess because it says as written, what he rewards them with is a lockbox with a bunch of potions inside, which is fine, I guess. Potion of Vitality, Potion of Greater Healing, and Potion of Mind Reading. But I don't know if he would. But why? If he's got a lockbox with, I guess he hasn't opened it ever, because then it would damage them. So we'd have to give it to him and be like, all right, there's potions in here, but don't open them underwater because they're not sealed, but the case is sealed. Maybe that makes sense. And his gem is just kind of hanging out in a desk drawer. But he can offer to be like, and he's got the key, so he'd be like, look, I can give you some rewards. He could be like, I'll give you some up front and then help me clear the Sahuagin, and then you can have the rest. And he's willing to part with his spellbook. I thought that'd be a funny funny speech where he's like, yeah, me and the spellbook haven't seen eye to eye since I went undead. The book barely looks at me, speaks to me. You know, I don't really need that book, and I just want to get rid of the book, and I can just use my own. Or maybe he isn't even attuned to it. Maybe he's got his own book or something. He's got like a seaweed thing. Does he really need a spell book at this point? I don't know. But he's not enjoying his spell book, so that's why he's willing to give it up peacefully, assuming the players are not going to come in swinging. Let's see, what else? This is a tricky situation where the players were kind of up here in this area W9, when very clearly all the battle and the noise would have alerted all these creatures down here, but that would have just been too much fighting, and I don't know. I didn't want to do it. I just felt like that's throwing too much combat at the players too quickly. Although, honestly, they're doing really great, considering they're down a player and they just fought a whole bunch of Sahuagin. They don't even have to short rest, which is good. Now, because of our new house rules, the short rest only takes, 5 or 10 minutes? So they can still short rest without running out of breath, which will be useful for them and allow us to get, hopefully, everything done within the 1 hour limit of being in here. Also, I did have Gottwald roll for that Frigid Waters effect, which is just another ongoing environmental hazard to this dungeon, where they have to roll a... Or do I have to click on Frigid Water? Yeah, it's a DC 10 con save or gain a level of exhaustion. So because he was in the water longer, because he specifically went out and then played as bait, went back, and basically had that whole beach combat in the water before the players went in, I had him on a slightly different, which is trickier for me to keep track of, but I've got him on a different timer than everybody else. So Gottwald has just rolled his save and succeeded, and then after the next encounter, which I'm using the word encounter as literally anything the players do, basically, which Hoach Miraz would count as an encounter, even though they're not going to fight him, hopefully. After they do whatever they do next that takes up some amount of time, then Mac and Savra will have to make the save. And then after the next one they do, then Gottwald make the save. So I basically got them on an every other kind of encounter to make them make that con save, just as a fun little way to be like, all right, it's getting, even though you guys are magically able to breathe the water, it's still very cold and uncomfortable, and you do not like being down here. And thankfully, the first, level, I think, of exhaustion isn't too bad. Ability checks, obviously not great, but there's not like any puzzles or huge things they have to do down here. I guess initiative is technically a ability check. We always forget about that. I believe once you start getting like second and third level exhaustion, though, it gets real nasty. Because they already have halved movement, except for Gottwald, I believe. I think the other two have half movement because they don't have the swimming speed. They also know kind of where this Sahuagin was going. So I kind of pointed the fact that the Sahuagin was going down this door, which also leads to the boss, even though they don't necessarily know that information. So, but I'm fine with them fighting the boss fairly early. It doesn't really change anything about this, the cadence of what's going on here. I don't know how much Hoach Miraz would know in terms of, I don't think he was privy to them having prisoners or have the players know they have prisoners or anything like that. So it could be a weird case where they skip the lower level, but I'll try to remind them as a DM in case they don't think of it. Is like, hey, by the way, you would know there's a lower level to this deck that you need to check on. But yeah, I'm okay with them fighting Karg. And if they have Hochmraz with them, then I feel better about Karg summoning his sharks kind of behind the player. And it may be an interesting situation where the players are like kind of, backed up and in different spots, and these sharks can literally appear anywhere on the map. It's just water because they've got that shark telepathy out to 120 feet. So just if there's any sharks in the vicinity, that's just something he will call out as a reinforcement. And I just thought that would be good fun to bring those in. I mean, these are really, they were one hit fucking shooting these sharks down. Now, granted, that was with Mac on the surface and in the water. With disadvantage, it's a little trickier for him, but these guys can be anywhere they need to be. And in fact, they could even, it even says the players could, or anybody could bash through the walls. Chip's timber frame has rotted over the years, weakening it. A character can destroy a 5-foot section of wooden wall, including doors, by attacking it. The walls have AC 14 and 20 hit points. It's not something I really want to track, frankly. If somebody can hit AC 14, then I would probably allow them to do it. But that would be a cool cinematic thing, is like one of the sharks just like literally from, what is it, early Little Mermaid animated movie, Disney's Mermaid. The shark like ripping through, the old boat or something, especially if this guy's calling for allies. I thought that'd be pretty cool. The only thing I don't necessarily have a way to do is to actually open a way, because of it's all one big dynamic lighting chunk. There's not really a good way to just delete, unless I was literally making 5-foot sections or something, which is tedious as hell, which most people don't do that. Then the only thing I could do is script it to set it up where a certain section explodes and like use a secret door or something maybe, but then I'd have to redo this little dynamic lighting, so probably not worth the effort of having to put that together. Let's look at Karg though. Let's just see how nasty this dude is. These Sahuagin Barons, so again, they probably know the boss is down there. The boss, when they open the door, I moved the Mimic, by the way. The Mimic is now on the north side of the map, so I don't have to fuck around with that. He's by himself, but he could summon sharks either in the first round or the second round, depending on how bad things are going. And there's no surprise round when they open the door. Well, I say that the idea is he's like carving this. He's a true believer, and he's carving the statue that looks like a mind flayer. He thinks these are their new gods, and I think he's supposed to notice when they open the door, so the players can't surprise him. But obviously, I don't want him to. But he's been so absorbed that like no matter what the fighting is, he would also not come out of the room to do anything. He's definitely like waiting for them to come fight him. So he's joined the fighting area W13, but I would not have him be summoned to 13 either way, so he's fully absorbed. And frankly, the monsters in W13, even though it makes sense that they would come up here, I really don't want them to. And if I mention the fact that, hey, it's open on the bottom, you can poke your head down and see that, I would let the players probably do that. And maybe I could have like a cutscene of them like shoving one of the prisoners in there or something, just to like let the players know that there's prisoners down here, and then have the other Sahuagin just like, I don't know, milling about or something. Maybe even put the two, maybe I'll put the, could put the two Sahuagin down here as guards. I don't know. I also replaced, there's no longer 3 Sahuagin. There's one Marrow. There's no longer 3 Marrow. There's only 1 Marrow and then 2 Sahuagin down here, because I thought the Marrow was just kind of a bridge too far. But I like the idea of them not having been alerted to the players at the moment, but the players, like, they're kind of right there above them. I guess it doesn't make sense unless these guys were already absorbed in their own thing, which let's say they just recently captured somebody and they were putting them in the magic air bubble room, which I still gotta put tokens in there. I've been putting this off forever. Let's see. Do we have like a commoner token we can use? It's not gonna be in this version because this doesn't have any rollable tokens, I don't think. But maybe we can come up with, let's see, the bard. A dude with a flute. probably work. That could probably work. It's supposed to be 4 of them, but I don't know if I want to put 4 people in here. It's also supposed to be like 4 people from various ships, and I think for my story purposes, it would make sense if they were all from Fiskerbach. I guess maybe 1 or 2 could be from a ship. This is W15. Westra being one of them would definitely be pretty fun. Commoner, Bard, Druid, and Bandit are the 4 stat blocks that are supposed to be here, but I don't think it matters too much. We just throw some tokens in there that make it look like it. How about a cat? We'll do a cat. Trying to look through the... I guess I could also look at the compendium and actually look at the commoner stuff for there. Or go to the good old art gallery. Because I've noticed the last couple Roll20 official 5e campaigns, Roll20 has actually done a ton of tokens and token art. And that has been just really nice to have. Oh, that's a good looking one. Necromancer. Bad thing is if this characters are actually used somewhere, then they'll be like, wait a minute, I saw you before. And I'm not actually putting these real stat blocks. These are literally just tokens of commoners. Thug's a little too obvious. We've seen that one a ton of times. What does a veteran look like? Same as a champion, actually. I need at least one, like, mom-looking character, though, for Westra. Alright, let's try looking at the Planescape gallery, because that was a good one. Plane, P, Portal, PL. Is it under plane? There it is. Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse. Lots and lots and lots of tokens. Bats and bears and centaurs and rats. Or cranium rats, too. Well, I need lots of Modrons. I need just people. There we go. Elves. There's some cool ass elves in here. It's really cool token art. I kind of just need human though. Lots of good Gith pictures. Look at all these Gith tokens. Ah, these are so good. Fantastic. Loving this art. It looks so good. Basically, every time you see like artwork in the book somewhere, Roll20 turns a token into it, and this is really well looking. There we go. That's a good Westra. Drag your ass right there. Excellent. Alright, so get rid of your stupid thingies. I don't need your nameplates on there. There we go. I guess that's always going to show up if they have hit points at all. Okay, we'll just leave them like that. I don't really think it matters who they are, what they are. We're not going to put the treasure there. The big thing we need to change is where the players get the important information that they need from here, which is the fact that, well, it's the map. So there's an actual handout they can get, which I don't know, is that actually... I don't see it as a handout now. I think it's a handout somewhere, but I don't see it in the chapter 1. Maybe it's in its own section. Player handout. Mysterious map. Nope, that's the one I made. I guess I made all these handouts. Message from King Red Axe, letter to Captain Sigurd. I've already forgot about the shit I've made. Okay. I could have sworn there was a handout of this. There art handouts that had the smudgy thing with the city circled. All right, I guess I'm making this up. Maybe it just didn't get added to Roll20 somehow. Well, the important thing, as well as the prisoner's gear, the chest contains a muddle of parchment and scrolls that contain indecipherable scrawlings. I don't know if the designer just forgot the fact that we're underwater. I guess it's in an air bubble, that's why. So you could still have parchment in there. One piece of parchment sticks out as it has a map of the Sword Coast scrawled upon it. The cities of Neverwinter, Waterdeep, and Baldur's Gate have been blotted out with black ink. The city of Waterdeep is also circled. Characters with the pirate or sailor background know that such a map signifies a coming pirate attack. So that's all. And it says the map should prompt them to journey back to the Sword Coast, where they uncover a series of planned pirate attacks upon major cities. So, while I could keep that, I think it would be more interesting and engaging if the players learned this information from either the Shield of Farsight, which is literally an eyeball that the Mind Flayers can see out of and use to basically control the Sahuagin and kind of impose their will upon them, which I may turn that into... I'm going to think of it, why isn't that in the boss's room? Why is that its own area? Should I just combine those two areas? Desecrated shrine. The cabin is clearly a shrine to some deity that was recently vandalized. The walls are covered with carvings of sharks, but they've all been scratched over, destroying the crude workmanship that went into them. Hundreds of shards of coral litter the floor, but here you make out the odd chunk that resembles a fin. Sitting atop a coral plinth is a shield with a single eye in the center. Slowly it blinks. I've been racking my head trying to figure out which of these two areas I want to feature this cutscene in, and why don't I just combine these two rooms and make it so the boss room is just the one important room where you get that information from, and then also you fight the boss. Right? Like, and then I can just fucking close this door and just pretend this room doesn't exist and there's just nothing here. That seems to make more sense. And then I don't have to worry about them searching all the way up here where there's just fucking nothing. So if we do that, then we can say that he's been carving... And I've always talked about maybe not wanting to give them a literal shield of Farsight, which is this shield that has been enchanted with a magic eye that the Mind Flayer can Mind Blast out of, which is an incredibly powerful ability that Mind Flayers can do. It's an AoE stun and does psychic damage. And it's on a recharge. It's not even like a spell that they cast for limited points per day. I mean, it recharges, so it has a chance of coming back every 6 seconds. So they can do it constantly. Now, you can do interesting things with this. You can go like, the One Ring, and it like corrupts the user, or whatever it does it with this one shield. But, and you could turn the shield into a different kind of item, I guess, because I don't think, even though Gottwald's actually using a shield underwater right now, he doesn't normally use a shield, I believe. I mean, I could, but I'm just trying to come up with something better than a map, I think. So my idea is, especially if we put the shrine in the boss room, then we can trigger a little bit of a scene, maybe as soon as they open the door, and then maybe the boss is receiving a message, and it's just a psychic call, and the players all hear it too, because it's just kind of a open channel psychically, and it's basically commanding the Sahuagin, like, gather your forces. It's just literally an ongoing message to like all the forces across the sea that have been building up, and it's like the time is nigh. We attack the Sword Coast. I guess I got to be careful about what their actual goal is, because I think when we get to chapter 2, it's actually they have like specific things they're trying to do, whereas I'm maybe spinning this as like this is their first big assault. Maybe their goal is to take out Neverwinter first, and that can be part of their thing. Like Neverwinter will be our beachhead. We'll conquer the city, take it over, and expand our rule across the coast, blah, 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 villain speech, villain speech, villain speech. And this will be their first big, like, oh, fuck. They only just recently discovered, like, who the baddies are. And now the baddies are actually, like, way more organized and already have all this, capability and minions and things that they had no idea about, basically. So even though, and so I like the concept here story wise, is that even though they've saved this one island and cleared the Sahuagin out, although they haven't quite saved it because there's actually a mind flayer in Bronzo Mine that you take out. Now they'll have like the wider problem to deal with, the much bigger threat as they advance to 5th level after they clear Gunderlin as well. So narrative that works very well, but I just think for getting that information, I think it'd be cooler to receive it like a psychic message from the villain, like literally like Zelix 4 inhabiting the Kraken, who has become like a super powered psionic threat, will be broadcasting this message, and they'll get that as soon as they open the door. And then of course, the boss will be sitting there like, listening as well. And then he'll turn as everybody, and that'll make sure there's no surprise rounds or anything. He'll turn as because they open the door and, point at him with his forearms and go and attack them. So they'll get the information, then they'll have the boss fight. I think that'll work out a lot better than just trying to find a parchment in a chest that like has very vague like circles around cities, and you're supposed to extrapolate like, okay, this means there's going to be an attack on these cities. Whereas I'm like, all right, no, specifically there's a call out, all the villains, bad guys are heading to Neverwinter to go conquer it like right away, and the players are like, oh shit. And the nice thing is they'll need to turn in the quest to Gunbark anyway, so they'll have to go there to pick up their ship to go back to Neverwinter, so I don't have to worry about them forgetting anything. Hopefully they don't literally feel like they have to go skip Bronzo Mine, because we are also creating that content there. And that's something they should go do just in case there's, loose ends. And won't take too long, hopefully. But I do want them to be, like, behind, too. They've been behind this whole time in terms of, investigating and chasing to what the villains have been doing. And then they'll kind of catch up to real time in terms of the villains' plans right when they arrive at Neverwinter. Neverwinter will be, like, under siege, and allow them to, like, break the siege and do all that fun stuff. And yes, that's going to be a bear and a half to prep, because I have no maps whatsoever for any of the Neverwinter stuff. We're just going to have to come up with a lot of town maps and specific encounters to the best of my ability, similar, I think, to how we did Chapter 4 of Rime of the Frost Maiden, where, spoilers, it was them chasing the Chardalyn Dragon in that campaign when it was strafing down East Haven, and I had to create kind of a number of encounters for in the town that they had to deal with while they were trying to catch up to that. So in this case, it would be kind of a similarly structured situation, but I just don't have the maps for it and necessarily the content. If he has 4 arms, he also has 4 forearms. Is that like 16 arms? Sure, I bet it is. For the Sahuagin Baron, we were going to look at this tableau. So I think I'm going to make that change. I think I'm gonna basically just eliminate room W14 and move the shrine to the boss room, and then I can do all of that together, make sure that happens in that scene, and then also trigger this boss fight. And I think that's going to work so much better. And then he can call the sharks and have this big old thing. Now, it's up to the players whether they want to trigger that as soon as they want to, or if they want to explore other areas of the ship before that. Yeah, the only other ones of note, as I mentioned, there's the prisoners down below, and there's a fight down there with some bad guys. There's a fight with a giant fucking lightning eel, which is nasty, which is guarding a little bit of random treasures, like some ingots down there. And then there's actually treasure room up here, which is guarded by the underwater mimic, although that's also can be an environmental puzzle. I'll have the words like, or not words, it'll be symbols. It'll be like a crude symbol of a fish, and then a kind of a symbol of the door, basically. Or maybe a fish with like an arrow at the door. Make it like real cryptic and confusing. And then the players have to figure out, like, wait, where the fuck? What do we do with this door? And then if somebody grabs it, it's a mimic. All right, Mr. Baron, how strong are you? Now that we've figured out your boss room a little bit. The Sahuagin Baron is an AC of 16. That's a lot higher than the average Sahuagin. He wears a breastplate. Average hit points of 76. I did roll at one point last week, I guess. For hit points, my General rule is that if it's a named boss, I always roll, but I keep rolling until I get higher than average. In this case, I got quite a bit higher, 89 hit points for that boss. Pretty damn good dex saves defensively. So he's got the AC of 16, saving throws, dex +5, con +6, intelligence +5, wisdom +4. Dude is an absolute champ when it comes to saves. He's at CR5. He's got the Sahuagin Blood Frenzy, so advantage on attacks, and he's got triple attack against any creature that doesn't have all of its hit points. That could be very dangerous. He has a +7 to hit. Mainly melee. If they find a way to like root him or something, he's in trouble because all he's got is his thrown trident, which I guess he can only do once. So he's kind of inept if he can't get to somebody in melee range. But otherwise, absolute vicious beast. We can see what those attacks. I mean, just let's see what advantage. Let's give him the whisper toggle. See if that whispers correctly. I believe it does. So a 19 would hit everybody for 8 piercing damage. 2 of its claws are trident. I guess you could always say, well, he's using his claws instead of his trident if you needed to dumb him down. But well, that is nice. If he throws his trident, then I guess he's got his claws. So there's that. 25 will hit for 16 damage. There's only 2 of his 3 attacks, and then another trident. 12 will not hit anybody. So right there, that round, he did 24 damage in a round. Could be pretty nasty. Could be pretty nasty. Hoach Miraz, save us. So we'll see how he... I could see him not summoning the sharks in the first round. Maybe the second or third round, though. We could have some sharks show up, especially if somebody's like, if Mac's just back there, like just peppering him with arrows or something. That would be fun to have sharks just run up on Mac and really fuck him up. So I want this to be a good boss fight, though. I want it to be, you know, nasty. I just have to be wary of the fact that the players are down a party member, and if I need to make some adjustments, the best adjustment always is hit points, right? I can always adjust hit points. If the players get him down to like 20 hit points and they're just on their last legs, then, you know, I'd probably pull the trigger on having him go down or something. Or maybe he retreats, although it feels kind of lame for the boss to retreat, right? You don't ever want the boss feels like he should go down with the captain needs to go down with the ship, I feel like. It also feels like he should summon the guys down here, but I don't know, man. I think it would be just way too bad if these guys got involved. And maybe, again, if the players want to, I could point out the fact that, hey, this area below you is also open. And if somebody pokes their head, but you can like hear, maybe that's how we'll describe it. Like you can hear sounds from down there. And if they poke their head down, they can just see 2 Sahuagin, or maybe I'll describe the marrow, this large, what is the fucking difference between a marrow and a Sahuagin? I don't know. It's just way bigger. Do Sahuagin have legs? Or are they fishy on the bottom? I literally do not know. What do they look like on the bottom? Because the marrow straight up looks like a mermaid, but with like a shark head. Shark head! I don't know what a Sahuagin looks like. On the bottom. Unfortunately, all the tokens... I feel like I need a handout version, not a token. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so Sahuagin's got fucking feet. They're webbed feet, but he's got feet. The marrow is a straight up like merman, but like a shark dude. So that's a lot different. Coastal bullies. Stronger than that Sahuagin for sure, and just straight up larger. So I could probably describe that character as throwing a person in this room, but maybe you can glimpse that the room somehow has air in it, and then he shuts the door, and then 2 Sahuagin stand a guard there, and he swims, I don't know, back somewhere. I don't know what the fuck he's doing. He's doing something. Sifting through crap down here. Maybe the Sahuagin are just only been here so long. That might make the most sense. Maybe they're still looting through things and looking at stuff. I don't know. and yet somehow had the technology to set up this prisoner den of people to save. I don't, unlike the prisoners at Salvage Operation, I really don't have anything for these characters to do or any kind of relevancy in the story. We can just say that they're, like I said, most of them are just the survivors from Fiskerbach. It's nice, I think, if players feel like they can rescue people rather than just avenge them. So they're there to be rescued, and this the dark thing is the fact that Burns' mom is here. She's like, and maybe she can give some more context about the fact that the family was split up, and the boy and the father were sent to the mine. But I guess it's like I know they're so strong and whatever, and then she can describe the son, and the players can be like, well, shit. I don't know, were sea trolls? I don't know. I think there's already a sea troll, or maybe it's just a troll with its swim speed in terms of a variant stat block. So I might let the players look at that. Unfortunately, if you describe this room to them, they'll be like, oh, we need to go down there and kick those guys' asses, which they can. But then I'll also remind them of the cool, chain door that they need to explore. So those are the 3 main points of interest: is Hochmara's room up there, which they have no idea what's in there; the boss, which they don't know, what to expect there, but they kind of know the general direction that the boss is like this way. And then I can describe them fairly quickly, since they're in this area, about the hold in W13, which is where the Mara, the 2 Sahuagin, and then I can kind of play out a cutscene of the prisoners so they know they can rescue somebody. And then, as I mentioned, the only thing left is I'll keep the giant lightning eel in this one room and some loot they can grab, although that eel's also real fucking nasty. The boss fight, honestly, a lot of the challenge of the boss fight is how fucked up they are going into it, because right now they're pretty fine. I think Savral's still got a lot of spell slots left, and neither of them take damage. Gottwald's been a little injured, but nobody's even had to short rest. Like, everybody's looking fine. But if they start doing some of the other battles before they do the boss, then they're going to be in a lot worse shape. And then in terms of the treasure room, I think I'm keeping that. Although I'll need to change the leather mariner's armor, because I believe nobody here uses leather armor. Armor is going to be so annoying for this party. I guess Toril now uses... Gosh, does he use heavy or medium? I guess he uses medium armor. I think he uses medium armor, because he's got some solid dex, and he's he's multi-classed into fighter, which allowed him to use... Actually, I think fighter lets him use heavy armor, but he's got a +2 to dex, so he might not even need heavy armor. Yeah, medium armor on that. So I guess he's the best one that can wear armor, because Mac, as a turtle, doesn't wear armor. And Savra, as a lizard folk and a wizard, definitely doesn't wear armor. Gottwald is the fighter who wears heavy armor. So weirdly, nobody actually wears light armor. So I need to change the other Mariner's armor to something else. I feel like I've given them a lot of defensive stuff already also. Somebody's got a cloak protection. They've already got one Mariner's armor thing. So I need some kind of other... What rarity is this? It's an uncommon magic item. So I feel like I need to replace this with maybe another uncommon magic item that they could use. I think they've already got a bag of holding. They've already got the drift globe. Yeah, I'm gonna give them the cube of force. I think that's a cool item. Requires attunement. I mean, they're gonna get a good chunk of loot from here. They didn't get basically anything from the crash site. So this is kind of like an extension of the crash site. But they'll get the spell book, which is going to require attunement. There's that gem of seeing Hochmaraz has, which requires attunement. The cube of force here requires attunement. And then I think they'll have a bunch of potions as well, and a lot of monetary loot. The one thing I'll need to change is the leather mariner's armor. They really don't have a lot of weapons. Max got a +1 bow, and he only got that from random loot drop. And then Toril's got the special +1 spear I gave him in salvage operation. I guess Savra's about to get a book, but that's more of a item than a weapon. So poor Gottwald needs something I need to figure out. He's got a whole laundry list of things, some kind of like anchor themed weapon. It's very early in this campaign. I'm already making all these like custom magic items. I usually didn't do that for Rhyme until much later, because I don't know. That's when I feel like there's enough magic items in tier 1 and most of tier 2 where you can just kind of use things from the Dungeon Master's Guide, versus when they start leveling up into tier 3, then you kind of have to start coming up with your own stuff a lot more. Same with monsters. But we may have to look for maybe just the equivalent of a +1 fist weapon or something that he would like, or yeah, like some kind of anchor themed weapon. I know he really liked using, he really wanted to like delve into the whole sea pirate theme in a cool way, and I think giving him some kind of, because again, after this and Bronzo Mine, they're gonna be they're level 4 for a while. They leveled to 3 after only 2 sessions. They've been level 4. I believe this is the 3rd session. I think they've been level 4 at. No, 4th. I think this is the 4th one. We did, let's see, the Crash, Part 1, Part 2, and 3. This will be the 5th one. Jeez. Because this is going to be Wreck of the Golden Crown Part 2. So this will be the 5th session they've been at level 4. I would love for them to finish Wreck of the Golden Crown this Friday, because we're not going to be here the next 2 weeks. We're going to go on holiday break, and obviously I want to start us on a good end point. It would be nice to be able to wrap up an area and then have that be the break for 2 weeks, rather than like, okay, we're at the end of this area, we haven't got it done yet. So hopefully we can get started on time, and maybe go a little bit later, but I would love to be able to get through this whole area on Friday, which is kind of a lot to ask for, and it's unfortunate we couldn't get through at least one more like room or encounter last week, but last week was just a bitch trying to get going. Because in my estimation, if I could remove the lightning eel, and we've got Hoach Miraz as a social encounter, not a combat encounter, hopefully. We've got the boss, which is going to be a big combat encounter, and we've got the hold creatures, which is going to be a semi-big combat encounter. Although the players, if I give them the information, they might try to do the same draw out, like, some kind of plan thing, which also kind of makes it take longer. So that's already a lot to ask for. And then if the Mimic turns into a fight, damn, that could be a really long. So we may, I don't know why these Quippers are here. I'm definitely not going to use these Quippers now. I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know about the eel. The eel might just take up too much time. The eel, I may have to just maybe half its hit points or something. Maybe that'd be the best thing to do, because it's really fun from a like, oh shit, and it like shocks the water all around you and does lightning damage, con save, all that. But the fact that it's got 50 hit points, I think it's, and it does a lot of damage too. I could see me cutting its hit points in half, or it's a beast. It's not gonna, if it gets tore up by one bad attack, it could just retreat also. It does not have to fight to the death. It's not a fucking cultist or something. So that's probably the better thing to do, is if the players do trigger the lightning eel, I can do its initial cool thing. They can get a few blows in, and then the eel would like immediately retreat after that or something, even though it's big and nasty. I could see that happening, because pacing wise, man, I really want to get through this area in the next session, where it's a 2-session area, but it's going to be tough. But then we've got probably at least 2 sessions in Bronzo Mine. So we're looking at, what, 7 sessions at 4th level? That's a lot. And I bet a lot of campaigns, if you looked at all of our campaigns and just campaigns in general, I bet 4th level is probably the longest, because the players are higher level. They're not so squishy. There's a ton of content you can throw at them that's very balanced, but more importantly, they haven't hit that giant ass 5e 5th level power spike that really changes the whole dynamic of balance and brings it back over to the players in a big way, to where now you have to start compensating in different ways and making sure you've got more action economy and doing all these things to challenge the players, and just really changes the whole balance economy, versus 4th level, which I think is a lot simpler. So I would imagine a lot of games probably run a lot longer at 4th level, and that's definitely going to be the case here. And that's also don't want to drag it out too far, because by the time they finish this, it'll really feel like, okay, now we get to 5th level. I'm like, I used to have Bronzo Mine to do, and that's also kind of a dungeon crawl. So even I, the DM, am feeling like I'm stringing them along a little too far. at this one level, but and I could see them complaining after they finished this up, like they should have leveled up by now, and I would almost agree with that. But Bronzo Mine, thankfully, it is a dungeon crawl, but I don't even think it's as combat heavy as this one is. I mean, this one it's got a lot of creatures, and I think that one, it does have a Mind Flare in it, which we'll have to talk about that when we talk about Bronzo Mine, but I don't think it has nearly enough nasty creatures as one has. And obviously, it's also not tall underwater, so that's a little bit easier. So try to get through this, and I could see me shaving off some hit points or creatures or something to make it happen. While still, I think there's still plenty of challenge here and a lot of cool things to have happen. But the important thing they need to learn and do is that, oh shit, there's a big, obviously clear this place of Sahuagin so you can kind of save the island. But, oh shit, there's a bigger attack coming on the mainland on the Sword Coast, Neverwinter, where all these characters met and initially came out of in our session 0. We need to get back there and kick those guys' asses. And so but hopefully they'll do Bronzo Mine next, and then we can just montage them back to Gunbarg, pick up their ship with their big thick ram on the front. They'd probably have enough money to sell and upgrade things, but they wouldn't have the time, which is good because they will have time after they save Neverwinter and go back all the way over there and deal with all that shit. After we do that big beginning of Act 2, then there'll be a little bit of, presumably, some downtime for the city to kind of repair itself and go out and get the quests and be able to maybe do some more ship upgrades and shopping and all that crap, and finally get to 5th level. Actually, no, not 5th level. I will level them up to 5th level before they go off to Neverwinter. So after they wrap up Gunbarg or Gunderland, and then they'll actually get to 6th level after they save Neverwinter. So it's going to be a weird, we've been 4th level for 7 or 8 sessions, and then we're only going to be 5th level for maybe 3 sessions or something, depending on how long that whole city excursion is. But I figure that's going to be a huge, big event with a lot of stuff happening with no opportunities to long rest, basically, in between there. And that will just be a big moment. And then, boom, you're 6th level. So it's tricky with the pacing, but honestly, milestone leveling is still the way to go because then I can fully control all those milestones. So I think that's what's going to work. All right, I think that is going to do it for today's episode of Crafting the Deep. If you enjoy the content, please do check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. Shouts to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Thomas, Stan, Brandon, Genocider, David, Eclectic, Roleplay Roll, Christopher, Corey, Big Nut, John F., John L., Scott, Eric, Tyler, Nathan, Camp Crystal Lake, Counselor, Andrew, Daryl, Relder, Captain Woody 79, Stephanie, Andy, Patrick, Jason C., Jason T., and Ishmael. And gold patrons, RPG, Papercrafts, Pretty Boy, Newman, Dead Lizard Lounge, Sam, Lippy Spuds, Jerome, Nathan, Fast Like a Tortoise, Scott, Rufus, Carolyn, Jerry, and Thomas. Thank you all very much for your support. I will see you for another stream of Crafting the Deep on Thursday.